Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the incredible communication network that runs between your brain and your gut. It's a kind of hidden superhighway that has a massive impact on your mood, your stress, and your overall health. So let's jump right in. We all use phrases like having a gut feeling or getting butterflies in the stomach. But what if that's more than just a metaphor? What if your gut is literally trying to tell you something? Well, the science says it absolutely is. You see, tucked away inside the walls of your digestive system, there's this huge, complex web of neurons. It's called the enteric nervous system, or ENS for short. And to give you some scale here, it has more nerve cells than your entire spinal cord. Just let that sink in for a moment. It's an incredibly sophisticated piece of our biology. In fact, the ENS is so complex and so good at acting on its own that scientists have nicknamed it the second brain. Now, it handles digestion all by itself, sure, but it's also in this constant buzzing conversation with the brain in your head, quietly influencing everything from your food cravings to your deepest emotions. So if these two brains are always chatting, how does that conversation actually happen? Well, the connection is made possible by one of the most important and honestly coolest nerves in your entire body. It's called the vagus nerve, and that name comes from the Latin word for wanderer, which is just a perfect description. It's the longest of our cranial nerves, and it literally wanders down from the brainstem, branching out to connect with your heart, your lungs, and you guessed it, your entire digestive system. You can really think of the vagus nerve as the main information superhighway for this whole brain-gut access. It's a bustling two-way street with messages flying from the brain down to the gut, and even more critically, from the gut back up to the brain. Okay, now here is the part that is truly mind-blowing. You'd probably assume the brain is the CEO, just barking orders down to the gut, right? But in reality, a staggering 80 to 90% of the signals are flowing in the other direction, from the gut to the brain. Your gut is constantly talking, and for the most part, your brain is just listening.
So, the vagus nerve is the absolute star player of your parasympathetic nervous system. That's the rest and digest system that helps you chill out. It's the perfect counterbalance to your sympathetic nervous system, which you probably know as fight or flight. So, having a strong, healthy vagus nerve means you can bounce back from stress and relax much more quickly.
But its job goes way beyond just helping you relax. The vagus nerve is also emerging as one of the body's most powerful peacemakers because it plays a central role in controlling inflammation. It does this using something called the inflammatory reflex. Now, that might sound complicated, but it's basically a hardwired circuit that directly links your nervous system to your immune system. It lets your brain keep tabs on and manage your immune response all throughout your body. And here's how this amazing little feedback loop works. First, the nerve's sensory fibers sense inflammatory molecules, kind of like a smoke detector going off. Second, it sends a signal, an alert, up to the brainstem. And finally, the brain signals back down the nerve to suppress the inflammation, basically telling the immune cells, okay, stand down, everything's under control. It's this beautiful, self-regulating system. So, the bottom line is this. The vagus nerve doesn't just put the brakes on the immune response. It also helps regulate your body's main stress system, the HPA axis. By managing both inflammation and stress hormones, a healthy, well-functioning vagus nerve is absolutely essential for your overall physical and mental resilience. Okay, so this all leads to a really exciting question. If this one nerve is so important for our well-being, can we actually do anything to strengthen it? Can we hack our vagus nerve? And all the research points to a definitive yes. The best way to think about it is like a toolkit with three main approaches we can use to improve what's called our vagal tone, which is just a fancy way of saying how active our vagus nerve is. We've got technological tools, biological tools, and behavioral tools.
First up is the high-tech approach, vagus nerve stimulation, or VNS. This is a small device, kind of like a pacemaker, that's implanted and sends these little, mild electrical pulses directly to the vagus nerve.
And this isn't science fiction. VNS is already an FDA-approved treatment for tough cases of epilepsy and depression. We know it works by changing the activity in parts of the brain that regulate mood, by boosting helpful neurotransmitters, and by directly activating that powerful anti-inflammatory reflex we just talked about. All right, the second tool is biological, and this one starts right back in the gut. We can actually influence our vagal nerve through our diet, especially by using beneficial bacteria we call probiotics. Some researchers are even calling them psychobiotics because of the effects they can have on mental health. A really famous study drove this point home perfectly.
Scientists gave some mice a specific probiotic, and sure enough, it lowered their anxiety and depression. But here's the kicker. They did the same experiment on mice where the vagus nerve had been cut, and the positive effect completely disappeared. It was proof that the good bacteria were talking to the brain through that physical nerve highway.
Finally, we get to the behavioral tools, which might be the most accessible for all of us. We can consciously do simple things to stimulate our vagus nerve and improve its tone. No tech or supplements required.
Simple, ancient practices have a huge effect here. Things like yoga, mindfulness meditation, and even just taking a few slow, deep breaths have all been shown to increase vagal activity. The real trick seems to be making your exhales longer than your inhales. Even humming or chanting can work because the vibrations in your throat gently stimulate the nerve. So when you pull all of this together, what does it really mean for how we think about our own health? Well, it's pointing to a massive shift toward a much more integrated view of the mind and the body. The big takeaway here is that the mind and body are not separate. The brain-gut axis is a real physical network, and the vagus nerve is its superhighway. This single nerve helps regulate our mood, our stress, and our immune system. And maybe the most important part is that we have the power to strengthen it through our daily choices and practices. And that leaves us with a really powerful final thought. As we learn more about this incredible system, you have to wonder, maybe one of the most effective paths to a calmer, healthier mind isn't found by focusing on what's in our head, but by learning to listen to and truly care for our body.